Recording. There we go. So welcome. As I was saying, today's lab is about how to monetize social media. And so Lisa, myself, and our wonderful guest, Dan Locke, will be talking about some strategies that you can do to really leverage social media better in terms of being able to monetize it, see an ROI, get more leads, prospects, sales, clients, however your business works. And of course, this is going to vary a lot depending on the type of business you have. B2C, B2B, but we will make sure that we try to provide some advice and strategies to everybody. So ask your questions. You can type questions in this right-hand side. Let us know what questions you have, and a little bit later on, we'll open up a seat if anybody wants to jump on live and be on video. And if you're still in your pajamas and you don't want to, then that's where the chat comes in handy. So welcome.
Melanie, I think we need to rename the show.
Two
smart blondes and a guy.
Two smart blondes and a dude.
Two smart blondes and a guy and a dude. That's it. That's it. Smart blondes and a dude.
What do you guys think? We should rename the show, right? Lisa's show is like so boring. We need like two smart blondes and a dude.
Yes.
Somebody needs to make a really fun graphic for that.
Yeah. Well, it's an option. I'm totally open to it. And we already discussed that we wouldn't invite any other females on the show because we needed to break up the energy a little bit, right? So
the dynamics, yes.
Yeah. So all of our guests so far have been men.
Oh, cool. So some feminine energy, some masculine energy. Awesome.
Exactly. So for those of you guys who are brand new to Blab, let us know if you've ever been on a Blab before. I'll give you a little bit of information on the things that you need to know. Like, for example, if you see those little circles and those, they're called props. So see, I'm giving Lisa some right now. I'm giving Dan some right now. Oh, cool. The other thing that you can do is tell a little bird, far left-hand side, tell a little bird that we're on air live so other people can join us and get some of this information as well. And if you want to ask a question, you can type in /Q with a space and then ask a question. So that will allow the question to kind of pop out better for us. Is that the right way? There we go. And the reason that this goes both ways is because on mobile it shows up one way and on desktop it shows up another. So so let us know if this is your first Blab, if there's anything that you need to know in terms of, how this works. If you'd like someone's comment, you can star it. Yes, that's absolutely right. Okay, so let's just jump into today's show. I'll just give you a quick little intro on who I am in case there's some people on the line that don't know me. My name is Melanie Dodaro. I am the author of the book, The LinkedIn Code, and I have a social media agency called Top Dog Social Media that mostly helps B2B companies leverage social media, social selling, LinkedIn, for the purpose of getting more leads, prospects, and sales. And I have my beautiful and wonderful co-host with Lisa with me today. So I'm going to turn that over to you, Lisa. Give it a little intro, and then we'll welcome Dan.
Sure. My name is Lisa Larder, and I'm an author, speaker, business coach, and I like to help people figure out how to move the needle and actually get results from all of their online efforts so that they can turn connections into paying customers.
Nice. I like that. All right. And we have one of my favorite all-time guys on the show with us today. Dan Locke is just an amazing, beautiful soul, first of all. Just a good all-around person who's always there to help anybody with advice and direction. He's a fantastic business mentor, as well as a whole bunch of other things. But I'll let you share a little bit about who you are and what you do, Dan.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, Melanie. I would say I describe myself as my profession as a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur all my life since I was in high school. And now today I own a portfolio of companies in various industries. I just counted kind of yesterday, a total of 21 actually, 21 companies. And my passion is teaching. I love to teach, and that's why I have my Make You Entrepreneurs group, I have my podcast, and I have my YouTube channel. So my passion is teaching, and teaching entrepreneurs specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to come out and speak at your event one of these days.
I know, but if you only to drive, anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, wonderful. That's terrific. So 21 companies. Let me ask you a question. I know that you've got very strong partners in each of those companies that are running it, because that would be really, really hard for you to do on your own.
Correct.
So how do you ensure the success of so many different companies when you have so much going on? How are you able to manage that, and what is the secret that allows you to do that?
Yeah, people ask me all the time, well, how do you run 21 businesses? And I always reply, I can run 21 businesses because I don't run 21 businesses.
Right.
Because I don't actually run any one of them. Years ago, I've learned about myself that I'm a concept guy. I'm a big picture person. I'm a strategist. So that's what I provide for each of those companies. Every single one of those companies, I have an operator, a business partner, and I only communicate one with each of those companies, and they implement the rest. So I measure by numbers. I look at the matrix. I look at the key performance indicators, because I look at the financials. It tells me everything I need to know about the business. And regarding of finding the partner and operator, just because I've been in business for so many years, I pretty much know. I have a whole list of criteria that I have. What kind of business I like, what kind of business partner I want, the chemistry. So of course I want someone running the business kind of share the same values, but have different skill sets. Right. Because we don't need to Dan lock in one company, right? So we need someone who share same value, but different skill sets, and they could run the company just fine. Now, are all of them, is it always good? Of course not. I mean, we always have our problems, we have challenges, just like any business. And they're at different stages. Some of them are startups, some of them 6-figure, some of them 7-figure companies. So, and I just enjoy growing them. That's what I do. I don't golf. I don't watch sports. I know now it's got kind of the hockey season, isn't it?
Your wife has no idea how much she's got it made, boy.
The other day I was just having a drink with a friend, and there was hockey playing on TV, and I was
so you didn't watch the Jays lose their.
I have no clue. I don't know what is what. I don't know what is. I don't know. Oh, I said, it's hockey season. I said, dude, are you kidding me? And then all the guys were drinking beer. I have no clue. I always tell people ask me, how come you're not into those things? How come you're not into the things that most guys are into? And I said, well, I don't watch sports. I don't, because I said to me, I'm playing the most competitive sports on the planet. Yeah, 24/7, 365 a day, and that's called business. Where every day someone's trying to kick your ass. Every day someone's trying to steal market share from you, steal your customers. So I said, I don't need to watch a whole bunch of guys chasing a puck to get my thrill. I just told you, I get plenty of thrill in my business. So in my downtime, I like to actually, watch a movie, go for a walk with my wife. That's more relaxing to me.
Yeah, good for you. That's great. I'm sure she very much appreciates that too.
Yeah, I guess. She didn't know the other way. We've been together for 7 years now. So
that's great. Well, let's dive into today's topic, which is really, how to monetize social media. And I think that there's so much confusion around social media. And, we see a lot of people use social media very poorly. Yeah. The constant promotional posts or the no promotional posts and, the puppy pictures and the cat memes and the, so there's two extremes I find, where people are really, really confused. I know I have some perspectives on this, but I think I'll let you guys dive into this first, and then I'll share some of my perspectives on, what are some of the things that people are doing that might be not providing the results that they want to do, and what are some of the things that they could do differently. So, Lisa, do you want to start?
Yeah. Sure, okay. I can start. Put me on the hot seat. No problem. I can handle it. I think that people really struggle with how do you use social media, because, even though social media has been around for a number of years and we may have expertise in using it, there are a lot of businesses that don't have expertise in using it. There are a lot of businesses that are not comfortable with technology, and they are used to advertising from a form of one-way communication. And social media is a way that you can talk to your customer. You can market and you can engage your customer. You can retarget your customer. And if you're used to advertising in print, direct mail, on the radio, on TV, shifting from a push message, which is a one-way message, to a conversation that includes your customer is a difficult transition to make. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there are some large companies that do a really great job, and there are some large companies that don't. I think it's the same as small companies. Last week, I did a Periscope on 3 business strategies that I took away from staying at the Four Seasons. And I don't remember what the 3 strategies were. That's not important. But what was important to me is I did this Periscope and I talked about how it was the first time I had stayed at the Four Seasons and what my experience was and how they went above and beyond in terms of service. And I tied some of the things that they did to business and how you could incorporate that strategy into your business. The Four Seasons actually got back to me as a result of that Periscope. And not only did they get back to me, they watched the Periscope, because if they hadn't watched the Periscope, they wouldn't have been able to actually say what they said to me. And so to me, that's an example of a big organization that is using social media to listen to their customers, engage with their customers, shine the light on their customers. They get how to be social. But then you see other organizations, it's like they don't know how to have a conversation with another human being. It's they're talking to their keyboard instead of talking to people, and then they wonder why their business isn't actually turning any of their social media following into brand evangelists or higher paying customers.
Yeah,
that's kind of my take.
It's funny that you use the hotel example. Am I echoing?
No.
When I was in Ottawa to speak at your event, I had posted on Facebook that I was so disappointed. I almost had a massage appointment booked on the last day that I was leaving, because I wasn't leaving my hotel till noon. And just as the lady was about to book it, somebody else had booked it online. So I lost my spot. And I was like, oh, so sad. I was so excited that I was about to have this massage, and it got canceled. And what hotel was it? The Westin. The Westin wrote back and said, oh, Melanie, we're so sorry that happened to you. Next time, give us a day or 2 notice, and we'll make sure you have an amazing experience. And I was like, good job, Westin, like that they were paying attention and listening. And I'm trying to remember the Ottawa airport did the exact same thing. I posted something from the Ottawa airport, and they were phenomenal with their response. So it's really great to see. I think one of the problems too with, organizations, whether they're small or large, is they don't know who to hire to do social media. They're looking for interns, and interns often don't know a lot about business. And I always say that social media, there's so many skills that are actually required to do social media well. There really is. I mean, I had the advantage of spending 3 years almost being a full-time student, learning everything I could about social media when I sold my other businesses, and knew so much about marketing a brick and mortar. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Lisa just froze. I could hear her voice.
I'm back.
Okay, good. There's so many things with advertising, traditionally, and that it was so different for me to learn online marketing. And I literally had to spend 3 years learning it. And I had a strong business background. I knew how to market. I knew how to hire. I knew how to run businesses. I knew how to do all these different things. But I didn't know anything about online marketing. And it took me a long time to figure it out. I think that the problem with it is that, there's so many different skills that are required, from business development, customer service, sales, marketing, that it's a lot of things for one person to know. And that becomes really challenging for people. Well, what do you say, Dan?
I would say, I have some very strong opinion when it comes to social media. In my contradictions, what people believe in. First of all, when people tell me, always say, what, Dan, I'm posting on Facebook. I'm spending a lot of time on social media and Twitter, and spending hours on it, this and that. My question is always, well, how much money have you made from it? And usually it's dead silence.
Yeah.
They're embarrassed to say. First of all, most of the time they don't know, or the amount would be so little that they're embarrassed and they say, and they don't know why. First of all, a lot of people, they have the misconception that social media, oh, it's free. Anybody can post anything. Anybody can post and set up an account and start engaging the world. That's true, but to me, it's not actually free, because you either invest your time, your effort, or your money if you're spending money on paid traffic in social media. So it's not actually free. Yeah. Because that same 2-3 hours, you could be spending it on different marketing, campaign activities that might produce a different result. So I think most people, they need to be a lot more selective. What social media, because I mean, there's, now it's Periscope, and then guess what? Next month is going to be something else, the flavor of the month, and I think it depends on the business. They have to pick something that Example, like Melanie, you're the expert when it comes to LinkedIn. So, if it's only B2B, LinkedIn's the way to go. This depends on who you're selling to, where your target customers are. I think they need to I suggest pick one thing and just master it, versus trying to master like 20 different platforms. There's some people who do very well with YouTube. There's some people who do very well with Twitter. There's some people who do very well with Facebook. But for most entrepreneurs, I would say pick one thing. Once you master it, you could diversify. Yeah. I think start with one.
I totally agree with that. I would say, limit, like less is more when it comes to social media, because you can't do 6 networks well unless you've got a tremendous amount of time to spend the day, or you've got somebody dedicated to that. So doing, one to start, adding another one afterwards. I think content marketing is an important thing to include, no matter what social media network you use. So whether it's blogging or video or podcasts or whatever it is, they go hand in hand really well. And, one of the things, obviously, you guys know I talk the most about is LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a perfect example of that. In that, without content marketing, LinkedIn becomes not nearly as effective. So it's really about positioning yourself as an authority on the topic, sharing some great stuff, creating some interest, solving some problems, some little problems, creating new problems, because now they're like, oh, I know how to do that. Now I need to learn how to do this. But each problem you solve moves people, closer to a solution, and hopefully a lot of times that solution involves working with you. The other thing
you need to know what lever, right? Because there's only 3 ways that you're going to make more money. You either need to increase your traffic, increase your conversion rate, or increase your average price point per customer. So if you're using social media, is it because you need more traffic? And if you're driving more traffic, but your conversion mechanism sucks, then maybe you don't need more traffic. Maybe you need to get better at closing sales, or maybe you need to focus more on your existing clients and sell more to them instead of trying to drive all this new traffic, which is consuming all of your efforts, but actually diluting your ability to drive new business.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem, is people don't know what they're chasing because they don't know their numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at what traffic, what the purpose is of each social network that they do become a part of. I mean, there's different reasons that I use different social networks, and with each social network, it varies. So it's not like I have this big strategy that says, well, if I use this, this ties into this and this. It's like, no. I use Twitter to drive traffic to my website. I don't try to, do a whole lot more than that. I like to have conversations. I have conversations with other people in the industry and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, that's my purpose of that. And because it drives more traffic to my website, it increases my search rankings. So I get found more often in a Google organic search, which drives ultimately more traffic to my website organically as well. So it's really about understanding, how you're going to use it. And I find that, a lot of times people are afraid, they talk about, these tools being free. Well, it just doesn't make sense to me that you could be a business owner or an entrepreneur and expect that all your marketing channels are going to be free. You need to be prepared to spend money, whether that looks like having everything, professionally branded, whether it means creating some custom graphics and hiring a graphic designer, whether that means running ads, which I think are, should be a part of a lot of people's campaigns, depending on their business and who they're going after. LinkedIn ads might not be the right fit. It might be Facebook ads. Facebook ads are great because you can get really highly targeted, as well as Google ads. So looking at the different things that are available and understanding that, never in a time have business owners expected to be able to market their business for free. So don't start thinking that you can now.
Right. There's a lot of spray and pray marketing out there on social media.
And you might get lucky, get 1 or 2 clients from here and there, but that's totally not scalable. I think we need to look at social media holistically and accurately and say, hey, you know what? This is what it's not a magic pill. It's not like, oh, I wasn't on Facebook. Now I'm on Facebook. Everything's going to be great. I post one post and my phone will ring off the hook. I do one tweet and,
I have a sponsored ad. It's $1 a day and I'm making millions.
It's not like that. It's funny because I think that's another great point. Like my personal, Facebook profile and things like that. And then my companies, almost each one of them have Facebook and things like that. And which, my team managers, but I actually personally, Melanie can attest to that. Like I spend probably less than maybe 10 minutes a day on Facebook. And that's why I'm never there.
Yeah.
Look a little bit and I don't mean with my phone. I mean, I don't even have Facebook. I purposely haven't installed my Facebook app or Messenger on here because I just find it distracting from myself. Yeah. But that's just how I operate. My personal, I connect with my friends here and there. Let me give you another tip.
But do you think there's a difference between men and women in terms of Facebook? Because women tend to be more affiliative by nature. They tend to be more invested in the relationships.
Yes.
So I wonder if maybe, the reason
I think so, but I guess it's funny because I am known as an internet guy, but a lot of time I'm very old-fashioned in some ways. I don't think I've done any serious big business transactions through Facebook. Not one. Yeah. Everything I've done is face-to-face. Or on the phone, but most of the time face-to-face.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone can build that deep connections without that face-to-face. I'm flying to Toronto to meet with a couple of my partners in November. Yeah, we've talked on the phone, but I said, well, now it's time to do, sign a paper and do some deals. Yeah, it's face-to-face.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big believer in that too. That's something I talk about all the time. And that's something that people are missing with social media is that, business doesn't happen on social media. It's different if you're maybe selling a consumable product or something like that. Yeah. You
$30 product, $50 product.
Yeah,
for sure.
But business happens offline. So it makes sense then to move those conversations offline and, quickly, but not too quickly. It's like, one of the things I say when I'm speaking about LinkedIn is you need to slow down the sale to speed up the sale. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you have to slow it right down. It just means don't go in for the kill. Don't connect with a new person, then send your pitch. Hey, let's get on the phone right away. Let's warm them up a little bit. Let's build a little rapport first, I
always compare that with like dating. It's like you first meet someone, would you like to marry me? It's like, what the hell is this? Well, let's get to know each other, have a conversation, have a drink, get a phone number, email back and forth, go see a movie or something, right? You got to take your time. It's no different than social media.
But I think that social media is about bridging online and in person.
Totally.
So, I have generated, like when I owned my TELUS dealership, I generated a $15,000 sale through Facebook Messenger with virtually zero effort. Yes. And the reason that happened was because this person knew me from high school, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And so when you know somebody in person and you're connected with them online, it's really easy to bridge the gap. When you meet somebody in person for the first time and you connect online, you can solidify the relationship and vice versa. And I think sometimes people, like I agree with you, Melanie, you need to get offline, but at the same time, I've generated a lot of revenue through Facebook chat. I've sold $5,000 programs like left, right, and center just because I respond to people. Having said that, if you are using social media and you don't have a business strategy, you don't have a revenue model in terms of what are you selling, what are you offering, then chances are you're wasting your time.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a question, Lisa, because I agree with you. Social media is a phenomenal tool in starting to build relationships. Ultimately, my personal belief is for a relationship to move forward, it has to be offline, whether it's on the phone. And, I have friends that are all around the world, so sometimes it's not meeting in person, friends or connections or business, colleagues. But so when you generated these sales online through Facebook, Messenger, chat, or whatever, did they ultimately move to a phone call to take that transaction?
Some yes, some no.
See, I used to always say, nobody's just going to like give you their credit card number without ever having a conversation with you for a larger sale, right? But it has happened to me a couple of times, so I can't say that anymore. Like I had a company hire me to speak at a big event in Las Vegas. And we never even spoke on the phone. He just sent me an email just saying, Melanie, I saw you speak on this webinar for this social selling summit, and we'd like to hire you. And we actually tried to get on a phone call, but he was traveling a lot, and so he's just like, just send me the agreement. And then I had somebody else who had listened to a webinar of mine where I talked about, that I will write LinkedIn profiles for people. And I'm like, I have an online course that teaches you how to do this. It's very affordable. I also do this for people who want to hire me, and I charge $2,000 to write a profile. But I wasn't trying to sell it or pitch it or anything. I was like, but you can get this like by learning. I'm teaching it all in this course. And somebody emailed me and said, I want to pay you to do my profile. Can I just give you my credit card number? So it can happen. It certainly can happen, and it does happen, but we don't want to expect that. It's not something that you can expect happening on a regular basis. Whereas one of the things that I teach is, how to implement a lead generation campaign on LinkedIn. And so it's like, okay, so how many prospects are you going to reach out to every day? Okay, you're going to reach out to 6. And of those 6, if 30% of them are interested in maybe moving that conversation offline to a phone call, great. And of that, 25% of those might then be interested in a next step or a proposal. And of that, this is how many at the end of the month could become clients. And if this is the lifetime value of or the average sale of your clients, then that's going to generate X in your business. And then if it's the lifetime value is this, it's going to generate X in your business. And those are tangible numbers that you can say, oh, LinkedIn can actually generate for me this type of ROI if I put in this amount of time or work. Those are the things that people need to be spending more time on, in my opinion, on social media in terms of thinking, or a Facebook ad, a Facebook ad.
It depends on the type of business you have.
Oh, no, I'm talking about numbers. I'm talking about focusing on the numbers, not LinkedIn specifically. It's like where you can see, specific things. Like if you run a Facebook ad to a page and you can see your conversion of it, you can start to, really pay attention to those numbers.
Yeah, because I've done a lot of consulting for retailers and shopping centers, and it's amazing how you can do something on social media and significantly increase foot traffic to bricks and mortar establishments, and you don't need to do the same type of offline conversation type of marketing for those organizations. So I think that it really depends on what your business is and who the client is as to what channel works for you. What I like about what you're saying, Melanie, is if you're in the B2B space, really paying attention to what's working in LinkedIn gives you data, gives you feedback on what to do more. If you're spending 5 minutes on LinkedIn, 5 minutes on Twitter, 5 minutes on Pinterest, 5 minutes on Facebook, and you're basically all over the place, then you can't quantify what's working and what's not working because you don't know. You're just acting like a social media butterfly and you're like flitting all over the place, right?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, one of the things I always say when somebody asks me any kind of question related to social media is my answer is always the same. It depends. Because that's what I said in the beginning when we started this. It's like for every business, it's going to be different. If they're B2B, B2C, who is their target audience? What is their average, sale price? I mean, there's so many factors that come into play in terms of, what's going to work for you. And somebody asked a question about how to figure out your lifetime value of your customer. And I just did a presentation this week called LinkedIn Currency, and I put a whole a LinkedIn ROI calculator and a lifetime customer value calculator in it to help people figure that out. And it's really, that is the most simple exercise of all. It's okay, so what is the average sale price that you have in your business? Is it, let's say, for example, it's $2,500. And let's say the average person stays with you for 5 years and repurchases once per year. That would be $12,500. Do you have an acquisition cost in there? So, for example, did you spend $400 to run ads to get that customer? Well, then that $12,500 is going to be.
Bless you, Lisa.
Yeah, I know. Is going to be.
Mute button.
The $12,500 would then be $12,100. So, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways of doing that. How do you do that, Dan?
Well, I think I actually agree with both of you. One of my mentees, he just opened up a ice cream shop in Vancouver downtown, and all he did was Instagram.
Mhm.
That was it. And it was packed, lined up, waiting, like actually sold out all the product day one. And it's still like we've been opening now less than a month. It's still packed every day, long lineup. It's just because of Instagram. And so he can spread the word. He didn't run ads, he didn't run newspaper, didn't do any of that stuff. Instagram, that's it, because the product itself is very attractive. Just to give you an idea, it's ice cream, but he has actually puts dry ice underneath a different cup. So then it's got smoke coming out, right? And the flavors are like, we're talking about from Asia, like bubble tea kind of a milk tea kind of flavor. So it's not just vanilla and chocolate. So it's very viral. So Instagram, perfect. People see the picture. Oh, I want to try this. This is awesome. So again, that's just so I think for all the listeners, for all the business owners, we have to think and just use a little bit of common sense. And don't take what I say, don't take what anybody says, right? That's the only way to do it. Well, test it out for yourself. Does that make sense? Are you getting a good return on it? Is it working for you? And if it is, keep doing it. If it doesn't, you can always try something else. I think that's the message what we're trying to communicate. You have to know what works for you, and then not just say this is the magic pill, this is the only solution. No, you might want to try one, and if it doesn't work, you might try another one, and you might want to spend some money on Facebook ads. It all depends, but you got to think for yourself. That's what I
think one of the things you said earlier about KPIs, having reporting, some type of a dashboard where you can look at where's your referral traffic coming from, where are your sales coming from. So many business owners don't look at that information. And so essentially they're operating in the dark. They don't know where the business is coming from. And so they can't accurately say Facebook generated X amount of revenue from me because they're not tracking it.
Yeah. You know what I think would be really great to do right now is to dive in with some specific tips or strategies that people can utilize. And so we can just share some advice related to whatever expertise we have. One of the things that I have found that is most effective with social media is using social media to build an email list. Because it's way easier to sell via email than it is via social media. Especially when you're talking about something like, Facebook, where people are not wanting to see business posts all the time. Yeah. They're more interested in personal stuff, right? I know that from, experience. Anything I've posted personal in nature, it goes crazy. People are commenting, liking, whereas if it's a business thing, you maybe get 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 people. But when you're using social media to drive traffic to a website that's got an opt-in or a landing page, and I know, who was it that just asked a question? Somebody just asked a question about, as a professional speaker, how would you best use Facebook to fill the room? So it would be the same for everything. If you're going to try to fill a room or sell a product or whatever, you can do that through email, again, much easier than you can through social media. So why not use social media to build an email list? And then, when you want to market something, you obviously have to continue providing value to your email list. You can't just be shooting out promotional emails all the time, but once in a while you can. So for example, when I launched my book last year, and we're hoping that Lisa's going to have the same success when she launches her book in the beginning of January, I was able to hit #1 in 3 countries, in Canada, the US, and the UK, in 12 categories by 11 a.m. in the morning. Now, part of that did come through social media because I had a lot of people that were sharing my stuff, but the vast majority of my sales came through my email list. When we were sending out the email list to people, and that's where I was getting my sales. So what I would be looking at is how can you develop an email list, what kind of lead magnets. So if you're wanting to fill a room as a professional speaker, why not start driving people to a lead magnet? One of the things I see people do is they automatically start driving people to a sales page, and that just doesn't work on Facebook. People don't like being driven to sales pages, but have a lead magnet that gives them some value, and then you have the opportunity to continue emailing them, providing value, and then ultimately introducing this event that you're going to be offering, or this product that you're offering, or this service that you're offering. Really start to think about how you can use social media to build an email list, because it's going to be a lot easier to sell via that than anywhere else. Lisa, why don't you share something that's tangible that they can really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, building your list through social media with the right audience is a great thing. I think that list building and webinars have become a little bit oversaturated in the last couple of years. I think everybody's doing the same thing. And because everybody's doing the same thing, you no longer stand out. So I'm trying to do things that are a little bit different from what everybody's doing. One of the things that has worked well for me is what I call pull list building instead of push list building. And a perfect example of that is being a member of a Facebook group where there's tens of thousands of people and actually saying, hey guys, for a perfect example, I'll use my book. Okay. My book comes out in January. And what I did is I created a freebie where you can opt in and you can download the chapter outline of my book, but you can also get your own Word document that's already outlined for you to create your own outline to write your own book. So in sharing in a group and saying, hey, I put together this tool. If you've ever wanted to write a book, I'm giving away my outline to show you exactly what I did to write my book. If you're interested in a copy of my outline and your own template to create your own, let me know and I'll send you the info. Yes, it requires me to respond to people one at a time. But when I do that and I tell people to message me and let me know, I get a huge uptake on that. And then I get tons of people that actually act on the message that I send back to them. So I think there's different ways that you can build your list. And I think sometimes we overthink what we could give away to build our list. Mm-hmm. And so that book outline was super, super easy to do. I did a Twitter webinar this year. I added 700 people to my list just because I did a Twitter webinar and I thought everybody knew how to use Twitter. But the truth is they don't. So I think we sometimes complicate what it is that we can use to attract people to our list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The more simple, one of the things that I was really successful at early on when I was building my lists was using checklists. So, a LinkedIn profile checklist or a LinkedIn etiquette checklist or a Facebook profile checklist or a Twitter profile checklist, and had these little checklists where people could just print it off and it was really easy for them to just follow some specific steps. What's working with opt-ins has changed a lot over the last couple of years because online marketers typically abuse the system. They abuse the system and things have to change. And so over time, people have seen their opt-in rates decrease massively for webinars. The amount of people that show up for webinars has decreased because so many people are doing it. It's the same thing with LinkedIn Publisher. When LinkedIn Publisher came out and you got the little notifications at the top, it was driving a lot of traffic to people's blog posts on LinkedIn because every single one of their connections was getting notified. Then everybody started writing posts. Mm-hmm. So it becomes overused and people just, get fatigue from these things. So it is, constantly looking at some new ways. And Lisa's been really great with doing this daily or quite regularly Periscope. And she did this an event in Ottawa a few weeks ago that I flew out to speak at. And a guy from San Diego actually flew to Ottawa to go to her event because he saw her on Periscope. Mm-hmm. I think that's a real, because, I speak a lot in the US and I know that Americans don't travel very far for events and they usually don't leave their country.
That's right.
Same as for a one-day event.
For a one-day event. It rarely ever happens, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, but this video, live streaming stuff is really powerful too because it allows people to get to know you on a much deeper level than they would through your Facebook profile or anything else, LinkedIn, Twitter, anything. So it's great, and the consistency. That's another key, right? Being consistent, showing up all the time, regularly, and whatever that all the time is. Like, I'm not committed to do a daily show on video because I don't want to get dressed and put on makeup every single day.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it daily anymore either. I was doing it daily. And what I found was happening is, back to what Dan was talking about, is the ROI wasn't working for me. And so the ROI was working for my BFE, my big fat ego, felt really good about all these people showing up and saying how great these periscopes were. But at the end of the day, my most creative time is in the morning, and my most productive time is in the morning in terms of getting work done in my business that actually impacts the bottom line. And by showing up every morning and doing these periscopes, I wasn't doing what I think is a bigger revenue generating activity, which is working on my business. And so I'm still doing these scopes, but I'm not doing them every single morning the way I was, because it's just not, to me, the return is not there. So I will still do them. I did one this morning. I had, a couple hundred people showed up for it. It was good, but not every day.
Yeah,
I agree with Lisa. It's like you always tell entrepreneurs, you got to weigh your ego with your bank account. Which one weighs more? So sometimes, I post on Facebook, or I get a lot of likes, right? I get a lot of shares. That's awesome. But have they bought anything? No. But I get a lot of likes, right?
Yeah.
It's like I have one of my companies, Table Tennis Master, and on Facebook, and I can share the numbers. I don't care. I'm transparent. So we have over, I think, 100,000 fans on Facebook. Okay, it's probably one of the largest training company. So we offer education to people how to play table tennis, and it's very substantial. With the largest on like social community on Facebook. But I can show you. If I show you my numbers, less than 5% of revenue comes from Facebook. 5%.
Yeah.
All revenue comes from Google or existing customers. So it's like it's all now, but every time we post something, we get hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments and all that. It could be easily, all our people is here. Let's spend more effort on that. No, our revenue doesn't come from that. Now, however, indirectly, which people, they get engaged after they become customers, they stay engaged. We post on news, we post any updates and stuff like that. Okay, that's okay. It builds trust. But directly, it doesn't come from Facebook. So again, you got to check ego, bank account, which one weighs more, right?
Totally. I always say you can't take Facebook likes to the bank.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. I wish I could buy a new car with all those likes, but reality is it doesn't translate into currency. So unless it's translating into actual sales, and I do get legitimate sales from Facebook, but can I say that those sales wouldn't have happened outside of Facebook? I look at Facebook, for me, it's just a channel. It's no different than my email or, in the olden days, voicemail. It's a channel where people can reach you. And so if you use the channel, you have to work the channel well, or you miss the opportunities. And because I am responsive to the opportunities that come my way, I'm able to often convert those opportunities into on Facebook. Would the opportunity have come through my inbox? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's just a point of contact. That's it.
Well, I think that everybody has the occasional ego goal. I know I certainly do. When I launched my book, I wasn't interested in making money from my book. I was like, I just want to hit number one. I want to be a number one bestseller. And that was my goal with my book, right? Fortunately, I've been able to make money with my book too, but it wasn't my goal, because and when I say it was an ego goal, it was totally an ego goal. I wanted to hit number one, but I also had a business goal behind that ego goal. And I knew that I'd get better speaking opportunities. I knew I'd get better consulting opportunities. I knew that I'd get better exposure in general. I had to measure that. Okay, how much of this is an ego goal? How much of it is a business goal? And it's okay. I was talking to somebody who's been doing some graphics and stuff like that for me for Instagram. I never bothered to get on Instagram until a few months ago. And I told her straight out, I'm like, I don't have a business goal around Instagram because I don't see it being that successful for what I'm currently doing, but I have some ideas on how it could be successful with something I'm doing in the future. So right now I just have an ego goal around Instagram. Let's just build followers. And then that way, when I want to launch something new, I don't have to start with an Instagram following that's like, 3 people. I can actually have a following that, that I can translate that to, at least for the social proof goal. And I think that there is a little bit to say about the whole social proof. Like, there's a lot of social media companies out there or social media consultants that are talking about how they can help you with social media, and they've got 77 followers on Twitter. the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, can somebody that's only got 77 followers really help me if they haven't figured out how to build their own social media presence? How can they help me build mine? So there is a little bit, of social proof at play, but at the end of the day, you've got to keep those ego goals down.
I know, but I'm going to play devil's advocate, okay? Like I had somebody who came to me recently, and they were like, Lisa, I want to hire you. I want you to help me with blah, 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 social media. I want to sell more books, drive more traffic, yada, yada, yada. And I look at this person's Twitter following. They've got 50,000 Twitter followers, and they've got 40-some thousand Twitter followers, and they've tweeted 3,000 times. Like, hello, they're not an influencer. They bought followers.
Yeah, no,
so
absolutely, absolutely.
So I think that there's like, I want earned following. Absolutely. I don't want paid following. I don't want manipulated following. I want to know that, because I've got, almost 1,000 followers on Periscope. It's not a lot of followers on Periscope, but I got to tell you, I'm not one of those people on Periscope that's saying, give me hearts and I'm going to give away my copy of my book if you give me the most hearts. And if you tweet to your friends 7 times while you're watching, I'll mail you a copy of my book. Like,
they're engaged. They're engaged followers. Well, I wasn't talking about buying followers, by the way. I was talking about, right now, I don't have a specific goal attached to my Instagram following. So the goal is, okay, let's just build followers, but I'm not talking about buying followers or anything like that. That's just,
no, I know you're not, but I just mean from an ego perspective, there's a lot of people out there that are, they have zero credibility. So your followers don't necessarily imply credibility.
No, they
because
don't.
On the surface, I don't know if you bought them or if they're legit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got $1 million in the bank or if you're in overdraft. Like, really? Yeah. It's all optics. None of us knows.
Yeah.
Really?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I personally, I like social media. Sometimes one of the biggest problems is also barrier of entry. With myself, I picked 2 channels, which is YouTube and podcast. Now, I picked YouTube just because I've been a speaker for many years, and I'm comfortable in front of the camera. So it's not for everyone, but knowing myself that I can use that as an advantage. So I've just picked YouTube. It's what I want to build my platform on. Also because I know most people are not comfortable with camera. Yeah. And so they eliminate a whole bunch of people. That's that barrier of entry. Right. And then it takes a lot more work to produce, good quality video, as you guys know, right? Yep. Lighting and every sound and editing is a lot more work, which is the way I like it. I like a little bit of a barrier entry. I don't like low barrier of entry. Same thing with podcasts. It's more work. You gotta do it properly. You gotta do an intro. It's a lot more work than just post something on Facebook. Yeah. And I picked those 2 channels as where I'm gonna build my brand, and not for everyone. But I think again it goes back to knowing what you're willing and what you're not willing to do to build your brand. For Lisa, she was committed to Periscope every morning. I'm gonna do this and test it out for a number of days, and said, oh, you know what? It's okay, but it's not the highest and best use of my time. Right. I'll keep doing a little bit of it, but I want to test something else as well, and that's perfectly fine. That's the great thing about social media, right?
Yeah, that's just it.
I'll turn off my phone here. 1 second, okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is important to test.
See, that's the great thing about social media. It's live.
Yeah. So what have you found to be most successful for you and your businesses, or any of the partners that you've got in business, Dan, in terms of using social media? We invest a lot of money every month on Facebook advertising. We're targeting, that's been very profitable for us. Compared to Google, the cost is a lot cheaper. You can target different groups. So I spend money on paid traffic. None of my companies grew to a point where it's significant through just like free posts and stuff like that. It's all through paid traffic. As long as you know your matrix and you know your return on investment, you are buying customers basically. Yeah. And you can grow so much faster versus you grow that. Not saying you couldn't. You could slowly engage and build your fan base, but it's difficult to build momentum. So Facebook advertising, drive them to some kind of lead magnet, building that list. That works very well across almost all my companies. Yeah. And a lot of your companies are B2C, right? Yeah, B2C, a lot of B2C. Yeah. Okay. Great. So does anybody have any questions? If so, type them in and we will open up a seat if anybody wants to join us. So if you do want to join us live and ask a question, feel free to click join a seat, and we'll take a peek here through the questions and see if there's anything that is top of mind for you guys.
I have a question. I have a question for Dan. How do you support 21 businesses? How do you figure out the highest use of your time in order to have 21 businesses be successful?
Well,
I'm sure they're not all successful at the same level at the same time, but
usually if it's in a growth kind of stage, example, like the most successful one actually required the least amount of time because we got the team, we have structure, we have systems in place. We've got a very competent, operator partner managing it, so that's okay. Those actually spend, the company that makes the most amount of money, I actually spend I have a meeting with them once every 2 months, just a lunch to go through big overall strategy. But the one that's growing, example, like after this, in the afternoon, I have a 2-hour kind of mastermind brainstorming session with one of the companies doing about $1 million a year in revenue. And we're just strategizing how to take it to the next level. So skincare company. And so with those, I spend a lot more time in the beginning just to put structure in place, come up, make sure we have the marketing systems, how we can acquire customers, how we can scale, having something that works. So I support it that way, but always provide strategies. I provide context that I have. Sometimes I put deals together. Let me give an example. One of the companies I'm involved with, we do digital marketing for real estate agents. And we've been doing for a number of years. So I have a very good friend of mine in Toronto, actually owns one of the largest software company providing service to real estate agents. They have over 30,000 customers worldwide. So because of the relationship that I have, I can put together some kind of joint venture of cross-promoting, or they promote us or through a webinar, all kinds of how we promote this secondary, but something like that. So context, deal making strategies, that's what I do. And that's what I'm good at. It's going back to knowing what you're good at. Everything else I'm not so good at, but I just focus on what I'm good at.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because one of the things that I always say to some of my clients is you can't ride 2 horses with one ass. And so when I hear you say that you're involved in 21 businesses.
At least I 100% always say high performance people, we focus on the few, not the many. I'm totally not an advocate for people to do what I do because it's just what I'm naturally good at. Most people can't even handle one. So let's master that one thing and do that and build that. And that's awesome. It's just my personality. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I get bored doing one thing.
Yeah.
And it's like Richard Branson, right? He can't just have one company. He has to have 400. But again, not everybody can be Branson, right? So don't try to copy don't try to be, Lisa. Don't try to be Melanie. Don't try to be me. Be yourself. Be the best version of yourself. But maybe see what we can learn from that. But I'm not I don't recommend anybody do exactly what I do because you're you, right?
Well, I was just talking about this with my husband this weekend, and that's about. I was talking about somebody I know has started 2 new businesses. They've got 3 businesses on the go right now, all of them basically brand new. And I was just like, God, I just can't see like how they're going to get any of them, and somebody I care about, get any of them off the ground when they're so, kind of diluted. And I said, I know that this is possible. I know that, some entrepreneurs can run multiple businesses. You look at Warren Buffett, you look at Richard Branson, you look at Dan Locke, you look at these people, you can see that they can do that, but they have an infrastructure in place.
Yeah. And maybe I also take you behind the scenes a little bit. One of the people say, Dan, everything you turn nowadays turns into gold. I always tell them, well, you should see me 10 years ago when everything I touch turns to shit, right? Because now I'm way more selective. I always say you can only be effective by being selective. Yeah. So people are looking, you get involved with this company. Let's say they're doing $1 million a year. And then, within a year, you double the revenue. Oh, you're such a genius. Oh, it's not I'm such a genius. It's because before I take on the company, I already know, okay, you know what? The product is doing well. And I can share the criteria. I want products that's already got traction. I like high profit margin businesses. I like that's maybe consumable that they buy more than once, right? I like that they have a good brand. maybe some kind of customer base. And if I take on a company like that, if I invest or partner, whatever I do, I partner with that company. And if I know that I already have multiple existing relationships that I can leverage, well, Melanie, Lisa, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. I mean, I could screw it up 50% of the time. This thing would fly. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And I'm just so I'll pick. It's like you pick a horse that even if they kind of limp, it's gonna win the race, right?
Yeah.
And then after it's successful, people look at that. Oh, you're such a genius. No, I'm such a genius. I just select more, very carefully. That's all, right?
Calculated risk.
Yeah, it totally calculated. I do not like risk. People see, I hate risk. Anything every day, on my I can see it, but on my wall, I have a saying here: what could go wrong? I'm paranoid. When I say one thing. A good example. Last week, I was having a meeting with one of my operator. Facebook is working like kick-ass. It's just working so well for us. I asked, what could go wrong? Well, what could go wrong is now 90% of revenue comes from Facebook. That's a problem. I said, let's diversify. Let's test something else. So we came up with, let's test 5 other traffic sources because I'm paranoid. I don't want, because Facebook, they change something, this and that policy. We're screwed,
and then your business is screwed.
The worst number in business is 1. Yeah, the worst number in business is 1. The one vendor, that one strategy, the one traffic source, that one partner, that one whatever, one employee. Yeah, the worst number is in business. You don't want to have 1.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just making some notes of some of the stuff that we talked about today, so I can just do a little bit of a recap. Awesome. Let me know what I've missed here. So some of the things that we've talked about today, in terms of how to monetize social media, are, I think, this is one of the areas that I know Lisa's big on, and I'm sure Dan is big on too, and that's knowing your numbers. So we talked about that customer lifetime value. Absolutely. What is a customer worth to you? Know what the various numbers are in your business, and that'll help you determine how much money you can spend to acquire a customer. Yeah. And don't be afraid to run ads. I mean, there's a lot of really affordable ways to run ads. And obviously you need to be analyzing those ads on a regular basis to see, how much do you have to spend to make money? Are you spending for every $10 that you're spending, are you making 100? Whatever that number is, looking at those numbers and how you can improve them. Build an email list. Use social media to build an email list and drive more traffic to your website. Make sure you've got some great lead magnets and test things out. Move conversations offline. If you really want, the whole ROI conversation really comes down to, I think this is Ted Rubin's term, ROR, return on relationships, building those relationships using social media and moving those conversations offline so that you can strengthen them further and get to know people. Like Dan, I'm calling you this afternoon because I've got to plan a trip to Vancouver to come meet you in person. Dan and I haven't met in person.
Yeah.
But we've talked on the phone, we've done webinars together, we've seen each other on the screen, so we've gotten pretty close to doing stuff in person. And he's, somebody that I always call to bounce ideas off of, and we haven't even got to meet in person. So I can only imagine once we, spend some time together in person, Absolutely. How that relationship will develop even further. And I know it has for Lisa and I. From being online to being moving conversations offline. I know that that's helped build our relationship much greater. What have I missed that we talked about today in terms of just recapping those points?
Be you. Don't try to be like other people.
Yeah. No, that's a good one too.
Yeah, don't try to copy just because it's working for somebody else. I mean, we can all learn from everybody, but it doesn't mean it'll work for you. And totally, take your online relationship offline, follow up, and also take an offline relationship, take it online, stay engaged, stay connected. A lot of this stuff is common sense. I think, but common sense isn't always common practice.
Rarely common practice.
And the other thing about that, because I totally agree, there's so much about social media that's common sense. And, I find a lot of really smart people using it really poorly.
Yeah.
So, that people which I think have a tremendous amount of common sense. And it's funny that, when something's so new to people, that all common sense goes out the window. No person would walk into a networking function, an in-person networking function, go up, shake somebody's hand, say, hey, will you buy my stuff? Yeah. But they do it online all the time. And it's just interesting that common sense is not necessarily always common sense when you translate from offline to online. You know, don't think about how you are offline and do a lot of the same things online.
Yes.
You know,
and be really aware of that big fat ego.
Mm.
Don't let the ego run the roost,
Yes.
because it's easy to get tied up in all that stuff online.
And sometimes I think because Facebook, the likes and people, you basically anything you post, if you've got a group of friends, most of the time the feedback is positive.
Right.
Sometimes the feedback that we need may not be the feedback that we like to hear. That, oh, you know what do you think of this idea? Everyone, oh, it's a great idea. Go for it. You know, the other day I saw a post from a friend of mine. She was starting this new business. And everybody's, oh yeah, it's a great idea. You should go for it. So gift. I just reply. I think it's a shitty idea. I don't think it's gonna work. And everybody's like, woo, like you're not supposed to say it on Facebook, but it is a shitty idea. What do you want me to say, right? So and so don't, so exactly, like don't let your ego, blind your judgment.
Well, and I think what you said about the barrier to entry, right? Anybody can say, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
But when you give them the link, are they actually going to buy? Or are they just
zero click through?
Exactly.
Two very different things. Very different.
And I saw that with my event, when I was talking about doing my event and I'm going to do this day and blah, 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 and it's going to be a really low price point to come to the event, who's interested? And like hundreds of people saying, yeah, I'm in, yeah, I'm in, yeah, I'm in. Well, I could go back and check off the names of the people who bought versus the people who didn't. And you need to realize that 100% of the people who say something on Facebook are not really telling you the truth. Yeah.
Well, I just came back from a trip from Texas, and there's a great saying: "Talk is cheap. Takes money to buy whiskey in Texas." Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, listen, we are out of time here. We're a couple minutes over, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time because we try to start and end on time every single week. But I want to thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. You are always a pleasure.
Thank you, Lisa.
It's been great, Dan.
So Lisa and I will be doing another show next Monday. We haven't got the show up yet to send you the link, but stay tuned. We're going to post that in the next within the day. So join us next Monday, same time, for the rebranded show, Two Smart Blondes and
a dude. You might have to get like a woman to wear like a guy's wig or something someday,
But yes, thanks so much again, Dan, for this. For those of you guys who are wanting to know more about how to learn more about Dan, watch his podcast or his YouTube videos, Dan, where should they go to find out more about you?
Just my name, www.danlok.com, DANLOK.com.
And there's links to your YouTube channel and your podcast there. Perfect. Good stuff. Shannon has posted that. Thank you, Shannon. Be sure to check out some of Dan's amazing YouTube videos. He's got such great content and a wealth of knowledge. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, guys.